This is Karen Hudis, and I'm doing a screen capture on the 2nd of January. It's been 3 weeks since we've had a live show on DCTV, and I wanted to update you. The first thing that you're looking on the screen is a tweet from the 1st of January where I said that the banking cartel is warning you to stay away from their defeat, because you'll see as I've taken you through these screenshots that we've been talking about checkmate for the banking cartel. And the tweet that I had given yesterday, it was very difficult to access it because the banking cartel put this in front, interrupting the link. It said, "Be careful, this site may be harmful," and the only one that site was harming was the banking cartel. It was warning you to stay away from that site. It said that the site would include phishing and malware. It didn't include any of those things. It simply told you the truth, which is that the banking cartel is in a very ticklish spot, and that's what we're going to be showing you now, hopefully. Okay, defeat. Let's get that up. That's what we've just shown you, defeat. All right, now let me show you a very popular tweet. It says that there are 34 retweets and 62 likes. It said, "The banking cartel read my tweet yesterday." And let's take you to what it was that was on that tweet that you can see. I'm having a little difficulty. Okay, here we go. This is the blog that will show you what was on, what we're talking about. People have been getting very excited because it looks as if the banking cartel is really going down. Okay, I'm trying to get up. My computer is very slow, and that's because there are many people that are breaking into it, trying to slow it down, but we'll get there eventually. Okay, here we are. "When the banking cartel tries to block me, I just expose their lies, incompetence, and impotence in my social media." And let's get this link up here. "When the banking cartel tries to block me, I just expose their lies, incompetence, and impotence in my social media." And let's go to this site. It's loading slowly, but we'll get there. And I'll read to you from that so you can see where we are. Okay. We're looking at the very popular tweet, and you can see Google is featuring the Twitter bird, and the banking cartel is showing that Google has the rising sun in it. And what I had countered with was this popular tweet: "3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth." And that's what we're doing in the global currency reset. We're showing you the truth as opposed to the lies of the banking cartel. And many people believe those lies, but fortunately there are enough people, we call them the critical mass, so that we are now in a different reality. And that's making it very difficult for the banking cartel to lie. So one of the things that I tweeted at the end of the year was, "The American public, indeed the whole world, would unify with an understanding of a rigged world for a few." And let's get to that tweet. You can see that. Okay. there was another Twitter bird that Google put up there. Google, which owns YouTube and was created by the CIA, is featuring the Twitter bird in its logo. Also, the famous so-called activist and Chinese dissident Ai Weiwei featured the Twitter bird in his wallpaper in his exhibit trace at the Hirshhorn Museum. In December 2011, Ai Weiwei was one of the 4 runners-up in Time's Person of the Year award. So I'm showing you he's actually not a dissident, as he's postured to be. That's another lie of the banking cartel. Weiwei's exhibit included the famous so-called whistleblower and former CIA agent Eric Snowden. The Russian government has now offered Eric Snowden asylum, and here you can see the Twitter bird. These are all lies of the banking cartel trying to fool you into thinking that Eric Snowden is a whistleblower and that the West is free and China and Russia are not. I'm not saying that China and Russia are more free. I'm simply saying that all of what you are perceiving as reality is really the banking cartel's lies. And all of the politicians are really just stooges and agents of the banking cartel. And they're trying to act out something that they think is convincing. But at the moment, there are enough people that are not convinced, and that means that we're in a different reality, because that's the way reality manifests. When enough people believe something, it becomes reality. So I'm telling you that what many people think is reality is really not, because enough people are seeing through what the actual reality is. We need to view Russia and China as our enemies. No, we don't. Those are banking cartel lies. That's divide and conquer. And we need to get ready for World War III. No, we most certainly do not. This article about Eric Snowden says that Snowden is not what he appears to be, and also sets you up for thinking that we're fighting another Cold War. This is a banking cartel effort at divide and conquer, which is their favorite game. And we're not going to go to that link, but you'll see that's trying to show that there's a Cold War. A couple of days ago, I tweeted that the internet is dominated by the banking cartel and that Twitter was trying to prevent the spread of information about this dishonesty. The amount of interest in that tweet was hidden. I made sure to include the good news about the world's wealth in my recent tweets because my presence on the internet is about to be hidden. I hope not, but it's certainly something that the banking cartel is going to try to do. I hope I still have more time on public access TV before my social media goes dark. I have enough help from the rest of humanity that's working together to fight the banking cartel, and we are going to win, and there's nothing that the banking cartel can do to prevent this. How do I know this? Because the banking cartel is trying to shut me down and silence me, and they can't accomplish this. As I fight the banking cartel to complete this tweet, I'm goading them on. Just this afternoon, I was knocked down again. The draft of this tweet was removed from my PC's screen before I saved it. And I had an autosave on, and the same bad hackers, I also have good hackers that help me. They restore things that the banking cartel tries to delete. And in this case, what I was preparing for the tweet was saved on autosave, and I was able to retrieve it, even though the banking cartel tried to erase it. And you see they're trying to interfere here. Humanity is one. I'm getting all the help that we need to fight our common enemy, the banking cartel. the people who are opposing me do not stick around, they all shut up. This goes for those traitors Trump and Dunford. The shills who try and defend Trump and Dunford and the other traitors I've mentioned all shut up as well. Gorsuch did not try to defend himself when I said that he was a liar and that he was bankrupt and that the U.S. Constitution of 1789 was not in effect, and the U.S. Supreme Court was not operating under the Constitution of 1789. The embassies did not try to defend Sandy Okoro or Jim Kim or Christine Lagarde, whom the banking cartel was trying to say had offices as General Counsel of the World Bank, President of the World Bank, and Managing Director of the IMF, after they were fired by the Board of Governors of the World Bank and IMF who run the place. Why does this matter? Because the World Bank and IMF are in charge of the U.S. monetary gold reserves and other wealth of the world in the global debt facility. I'm going to post screenshots and links to my recent tweets because I need to get ready. Oh, that was yesterday for a New Year's Eve party. Well, I already went to the party. And I was talking about the Jesuits and Black Pope that I tweeted 4 years ago together with screenshots of what happened when I clicked on their links. And this is what happened. The banking cartel tried to frighten people so that they wouldn't go and read what was written. And those were just threats. There was no problem if you went to that website. The banking cartel is breaking links and it's time consuming to reset them. So I'm simply going to give you a link showing what I did to Sandy Okoro this year. And it's in the teleprompter for the episode on the 21st of March, and there's a link there. And by the way, if you have a problem with the link, many times if you just type that into your browser, you'll be able to find what we were referring to. Okay, and now there's another tweet. It says, since Twitter hid this screenshot behind a show more replies button in my last tweet. And my point was that Twitter is part of the banking cartel and is trying to hide the actual reality. And when I point that out, it usually attracts much more attention. And so, what I was saying, I put a screenshot of an email that I sent to the United States mission in New York that deals with the United Nations, and also the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo. And I said, if anything that I'm saying is untrue, why don't you go on record? And they didn't, because, of course, what I'm talking about is the truth and reality. And the main reason that they're not denying what the truth is because they know that we have got to live in the truth that we're talking about the world's wealth, or we're going to all be dead, and nobody wants that. So even though they are agents of the banking cartel, they're also not about to commit suicide. So that's how we know that we're going to have a global currency reset, because humanity is going to survive. We're not going to suicide ourselves. Okay. And in the meantime, because we're all working together, there's a very big audience, and because we're also in reality now. And that's why the banking cartel is not going to prevail, because they're just trying to convince us that their lies are the truth. And that was what the whole point was in the very first thing that I showed you, the screenshot, where I said you can't hide the truth. And we're now living in the truth. And we're going to be, more of us are going to understand what the truth is as we continue along in the global currency reset. Okay, and then this is an email in 2013 where this man Guy had given me this link describing what the Jesuits had done. And he also warned me in his email to me. He said, this information on the Jesuits and how far-reaching they have their tentacles out in this country and around the world was emailed to me. So I decided to forward this to you for your review. I hope you can glean some useful information from it. Keep up the good work, the various banking issues you're trying to correct. Remember to stay off the various treadmill wheels that the bankers will try to keep you on through all their various tools at their fingertips. Yes, we've been on a lot of treadmills and we're getting off them. And then I'm not going to continue on, but there's one sentence in this which I thought is very good. This was to Dan Marks, who I'm not convinced is the way he's presenting himself to be. But I said to him, Occupy Wall Street says Hudis's story, there, they didn't like the sentence, is easily the most interesting compared to major financial scandals, surveillance, etc. The American public, indeed the whole world, would unify with an understanding of a rigged world for a few. And that was the phrase that I put on my tweet. And then I'm not going to continue to read all of this. But what's useful is you'll see that I've been casting a very wide net. This was written around the time just before I went to Japan. And the reason I went to Japan is because there are allies and we need to continue to defend them. They know that we're supposed to defend them because they do not have a military. And if the Federal Reserve note crashes, then we won't have any money to pay our military, and they won't have any defense. They don't want that. So they're not going to allow the Federal Reserve note to crash. And Germany is in exactly that same situation. And here I introduced you to John de Herrera. There's a lot of interest in restoring the U.S. Constitution, and John is one of the people working on that. We have to be careful, however, that the banking cartel doesn't try to dismantle it again. And the main protection that we have is when people understand what all has been going on, and that's what I'm showing you. And I'm showing you that the internet is dominated by the banking cartel. So you have to know that most of what you read on the internet is going to be the banking cartel's propaganda and lies. You have to learn to think critically, or you're going to fall into the same trap. You're going to be very susceptible. Okay, now so let's go back and let me try to show you some other things as well. I'm trying now to find the bear with me, I'm so sorry, but it takes me a little while to navigate around my computer. I do ultimately get there in the end. Okay, what I'm looking for is Windows, not update. Accessories, here we go. Windows Explorer. Now if I go into the G, there we go. I want to show you the tweet on Gold Fringe. It'll be right here when I go back to the browser. There we go. Gold fringe is coming off of our flag, and that is only the beginning of the global currency reset. The gold fringe shows you that the U.S. Constitution has been interrupted by the banking cartel. And when we say, get that gold fringe off my flag, we're saying we want the Bill of Rights. We want all of the rights that we have, that our Constitution of 1789 protects us with. And if you look at the tweet that's associated with that, and what happens very frequently is people will remind me of things that are relevant now. And it's certainly relevant. I was asked a question whether Trump was legitimate. And I said after 1871, which is when the U.S. Constitution of 1789 was replaced by a second secret constitution that the banking cartel put into place, the U.S. presidents were not legitimate. And that's because there was no electoral college to elect them. And that's what I say here. Okay, I want to show you another tweet. Okay, this is the day before, where you saw how Google was using the Twitter bird. Google, which owns YouTube and was created by the CIA, is featuring the Twitter bird in its logo today. Also, the famous so-called activist and Chinese dissident Ai Weiwei featured the Twitter bird in his wallpaper in his exhibit trace at the Hirshhorn Museum. And then I was reading that to you earlier, so we won't continue on that. And then I was complaining that I was knocked down. Yeah, the banking cartel is really very unhappy with me. But they don't seem to be able to interrupt me, because the groups, the coalitions that I'm working with are stronger than the banking cartel. And that's why I say very frequently that I'm like the canary in the coal mine. As long as I'm in the picture, you know that the banking cartel is weaker than the Coalition for the Rule of Law, which is all of the beneficiaries of the world's wealth. And that's what we're dealing with. In the global currency reset, we are going to replace the banking cartel currency with currency from the local areas, and also from the gold that belongs in the currency of all the nations. And I said already, I had read this, that humanity is one. And that's how you know that the banking cartel is not going to prevail, because the will of humanity is not that we remain dominated by the banking cartel. And that's why I've got this, that's why people come to me and remind me of all these things, because we are all working together. And when the local currencies are issued and the local areas start participating in the real governments as opposed to the puppet governments, which is what we now have, when the local areas come online and start deciding things, you'll see it's going to be a much kinder world, and a lot of the inventions that we know about that we haven't accessed because the banking cartel wants to make money from the current energy resources that they own. No, we're gonna take away the money that the banking cartel thinks it's entitled to. They're not. Humanity is in charge, and that's what's going to happen. We're going to be shifting to the reality of what the actual situation is, and people are going to start understanding what the reality is, as opposed to the propaganda of the banking cartel. Okay, what else did I want to tell you? I think I'm about to wind down, actually. There were a couple of other things, a couple of other points that I wanted to make. Oh yeah, checkmate. That's where we are. And the more people that start understanding reality, the faster we're going to replace all of the things that we're entitled to. We're going to replace all those currencies. And the likelihood that this all comes to pass is over 90%. And the reason, as I said in this tweet, when the banking cartel tries to block me and I just expose their lies, incompetence, and impotence in my social media, that's what I do. And whenever they try to break links, I just show you what it is they're trying to hide, and more people are interested. Okay, I think what I'm going to do now, yeah, I'm just scrolling through this quickly. Yeah, this is what I told you. All right, let me just end this, and I'll go back on DCTV hopefully the following Tuesday. Thank you for being with me, and stay tuned. I'm looking for the end key. I know I have to hit, there we go, Control.